What's an experience you wish you could give every person?
I wish everyone could eat my grandma's biryani because I think you'd be a better person if you ate her biryani. I think up until I was 30, I made 3 total decisions in my life. I think I had made 3 choices, and they all turned out to be great.
How big of a role does fear play in your life?
Big.
Big?
Fear used to be something I would try and avoid, and now fear is something I court.
I'm Rachel Martin, and this is Wildcard, the game where cards control the conversation. Hey, everybody. Our guest today is comedian and actor Kumail Nanjiani. Kumail Nanjiani isn't afraid of his feelings. In fact, he's made his emotional life central to his comedy. You see it in his hit movie The Big Sick, all kinds of roles in TV and film, and in his stand-up. Kumail's brand of comedy is about how we feel our way through living. His new stand-up special is on Hulu, and it's called Night Thoughts. And I'm so very happy to welcome Kumail Nanjiani to Wildcard. Hi.
Hi, thank you for having me. What a lovely introduction. Thank you.
You're welcome. I genuinely am so pleased to get to talk to you. I'll just tell you, you were one of like the top 15 people. Is that like a rude thing to say? You made the top 15 of people when I started this show that I was like, I definitely want to talk to Kumail for this show.
Oh, thank you.
But
that's lovely.
Now, after I say that out loud, it feels weird that I didn't say you were like the top 5. I'm like, the top 15.
Or the top 10. Right. Top 10 lists
10.
happen. When
Like a top
you're the
10
top,
is normal.
Yeah, you're the top 17. Well, I think I know what number I am. Well,
I
thank
meant
you. That's
that
very
as a
kind of you.
compliment. I meant that as a
It
compliment.
is a compliment. I'll take
Yep.
it as a compliment.
Okay. First 3 cards. Here we go. 1, 2, or 3. You choose.
I'll go 1.
1. Were you intimidated or excited about leaving your parents' house?
Intimidated. 0 excited.
0.
Very zero excitement in that moment, in the weeks leading up to it and the weeks after. Terrified.
Give me the context. How old were you when this happened? What was the context?
I would have been about 18 or 19. I was coming to the U.S. for college, and which had always sort of been the plan since I was a little kid. Like, they put me in a school starting from the 6th grade on, where most of the instruction was in English, and Urdu, which is the language I grew up with, which is my first language, was its own subject.
We should just say you were coming from Pakistan. Urdu was
I was
your
coming
first
from
language.
Karachi, Pakistan.
Yeah.
That's right. We should say that. Karachi, Pakistan. I was 18 or 19. I got into a school called Grinnell, which I didn't know anything about Iowa because I had not watched Field of Dreams at the time. And
then you did, and you knew everything.
Well, I got there and I was like, oh, this is different from what had been advertised to me in the films I had seen. I was just very, very scared to leave. I was very much, I was sort of a mama's boy, parents' boy kind of thing. I wasn't like a very social, going out kind of kid. I was still am very close with my parents, but, I was someone who never got in trouble, studied really hard. It was very important to me to be like a good kid. My wife, Emily, who you mentioned in the intro, was not like that. She was very rebellious. She was sneaking out of the house in the middle of the night. That was not me. And so very close with my parents, very much like mama's and daddy's boy, all that. And so when I was about to leave, it was really, really, I really hated it. I was really, really scared. I wish I wasn't doing it.
You didn't want to go. Did you go just because you loved your parents and you knew that this was the expectation that had been set?
This was the expectation that had been set. And up until sort of, when the rubber met the road, up until when leaving became a reality, I was excited about coming to America. And there's a weird story attached to this. My last 2 years of school, the way it works is I went to like the British system of schooling. So you don't go into generally undergrad, you go right into med school or engineering school or whatever it is. So my last 2 years, I went to a different school because they had a good program to get kids situated in American colleges. And so I don't know any of the kids. It's a new school. I'm sitting there for biology class. It's the first day. Everybody's talking. The teacher comes in And she looks at us and she goes, "Oh my God, so many students." Because it was a popular subject and she had too many kids in class and she was unhappy about it. And I heard that and I just went, huh? Like that was just my normal reaction to it. Like just a true reaction, not trying to mock her, nothing. I was just like, huh? Because she like had such a high-pitched voice and she screamed it. And she's like, who said that? And I was like, well, honesty is the best policy. I'm a good crit. So I raised my hand. And she was like, I'm going to make life very difficult for you. She said that to me in front of the entire class because she wanted kids to drop the class. So for the next 2 weeks, she was particularly very specifically mean to me. She singled me out. She bullied me.
She wanted you out.
She wanted me out. She wanted someone out. And she was like, all right, I know I can get this guy out.
Right.
Why do you have that stupid look on your face? Why are you smiling like that? For 2 weeks. And at the end of 2 weeks, I've always been a very sensitive kid. And it's taken me many, many years to come to terms with that. It's actually been sort of a recent thing that I've realized I'm very sensitive. And I just have to accept that. And there's no real fighting that,
Right.
I wouldn't say I embrace it. I acknowledge it.
Right.
So 2 weeks in, I was like, I don't know if I want to be a doctor that bad. So I dropped my biology class, right? Cut to 2 years later, and now it's time for me to go to America. And all of my really good friends are going to this really good med school in Karachi because they didn't drop biology.
Right.
And I remember 2 years, as I was about to come to America, being very jealous and upset. I was like, I wish I hadn't dropped biology because I know in that moment I would have chosen to go to that med school in Karachi with all my friends. Like I know with the girl I had a crush on, she was going there. I just knew I would have stayed, and I was so hard on myself because I was like, I wish I had stuck it out and taken biology. And now cut to so many years later, I come to America. I started doing stand-up comedy, meet the love of my life. Truly getting to live my dreams to a degree that I never thought I'd be able to live. And I look back and I think, if I hadn't said that, my life would have been absolutely, completely different. I know I would have stayed in Karachi. I know I would have gone to med school. And I know I would not be here talking to you right now. So
I love those sliding door moments.
It's a total sliding door moment because I know it feels like, I'm looking back and adding a narrative to it that wasn't there. It's not true. If I hadn't said, I would not have dropped biology. I would have gone to pre-med. I would be a doctor right now. So, yeah.
Here we are.
Here we are. But when I moved to America, so I was very upset at leaving I remember landing in Des Moines, Iowa, and going, I don't know anybody in like 1,000-mile radius of here. There's not a familiar face. Those first 2 weeks were very, very difficult. I couldn't sleep. I was crying a lot. I remember one time I was trying to get my contact lens in my eye, and I couldn't, and I ended up tearing it. And I remember just breaking down, sobbing, and calling my mom and being like, I want to come home. I can't be here. I want to come home.
Yeah.
But it really was 2 weeks. And then suddenly I was fine. And then I really, really loved my college experience. It wasn't something that got gradually better. It just immediately one day I sort of just realized
Well, did you decide? Did you just consciously this is where I am. So I'm just going to try to be happy here. Or
No. I try now to have intentionality in my life. It's something Emily and I talk about a lot, and it's with my work, having that kind of intentionality. That's something that I came to much later. It would have been lovely if I had come to some sort of epiphany this is where I am, and I have to accept it and I have to enjoy it. It was not like that. It just happened.
That is the truth most of the time when we're talking about what our consciousness was in our 20s. Yeah. I don't know that many of us were
oh my God,
as enlightened to be able to evaluate our behavior or choices.
Yeah, I was totally at the mercy of whatever situation I was in.
Yeah.
There were I think up until I was 30, I made 3 total decisions in my life. I think I had made 3 choices, and they all turned out to be great. But you know
that
what?
Says something. You've got good judgment, innate.
I could now that I'm thinking about it, I can only think of 2 decisions I made up until I was 30 years old.
I mean, what were they?
Starting doing stand-up and marrying my wife. Those are the only 2 decisions I could think of.
I mean, in terms of decisions, those are the ones you want to get right? Your career
Yeah.
path and who you partner with forever. So, yeah, good job. It worked
Yeah,
out.
I was making terrible food. I was eating like terrible meals because I was always choosing the wrong thing from menus. But when it comes to the big things, two pretty good ones.
Oh, God. Okay, this is number 2. 1, 2, or 3?
Let's go with 3.
3. What's the riskiest thing you got away with as a teenager? We've already
Oh.
established that you didn't take many of them, or that's how it seemed.
No, I genuinely didn't. I've talked about this before, but I think rebellion is encouraged here in a way that it was not where I grew up. I think part of like growing up here is going against your parents. There's like a narrative for it, you know?
Totally. I think there's a word, and of course now it's escaping me. Individuating.
Individuating.
I think that's what they call it. Individuating. Oh, they're not. I mean, sure, they're tagging up public property and graffiti, but they're individuating. Yeah.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, we did not have individuating. I also think, I mean, it sort of goes into, I think there's a big emphasis in America on individuality, right?
Yeah.
On personal freedom. Who are you going to be? You can be whatever you want to be.
Right.
Pick yourself up by your bootstraps, that stuff. That was not really a narrative in Pakistan.
Is that something? I mean, obviously that was part of your upbringing, is to think about not just yourself. It wasn't like a deprivation of rights of your individualness, but more an awareness of what was better for your family or your neighborhood or your community. Is that accurate?
Oh, yeah, 100%. We're like a very, very family-based culture, and we're a very society-based culture. And a lot of that comes from religion too, where we don't have the pressure to figure out what you're going to do for the rest of your life, because what you're going to do for the rest of your life is be Muslim. And so like your primary purpose for being is already established. Within that, what do you want to do? So there isn't that much pressure to like follow your dreams or live those out, at least in my experience of it,
But what if you want to follow your dreams?
I think, it's case-by-case basis. I mean, my parents have been very supportive of me following my dreams, and I think I got that leeway from them because I was a good kid. I've been a good kid my entire
Yeah.
life. So if my younger brother,
Right.
who wasn't as good a kid, if he was like, I'm going to do stand-up comedy, I think they'd be more worried.
Yeah.
But me, I was always so like reasonable that they were like, all right, well, if he's pursuing this, maybe there's something to this.
Yeah.
And they trusted me. My mom said, just don't quit your day job. And then I did quit my day job. And they were like, all right, well, hope you know what you're doing.
But this is such a good lesson for people who are listening, for young people who are listening, or teenagers, or my children. If you deposit enough good behavior into the piggy bank over years, then
Yes.
you get to cash it in. Like, eventually, the trust builds up, and then we're like, sure, take the money out of the piggy bank. Go live your dreams. You deserve
That's
it.
exactly. And it wasn't planned, of course. I just was who I was. I'm a real rule follower, and I always have been. And that's what makes a good partnership between me and Emily is that, we write together. We get notes from executives. And I'm always the one who's like, let's do them all. And she's like, let's do none of them. And then we find a happy medium, which leads to actually good work because some of the notes are good and some of the notes are not good, Like her, like she's always like, your people-pleasing is something you need to keep in check. And I do. I'm very, very aware of it now. But what was the question? What were we? Oh.
What was the question? Risky. No, the question was, what's the biggest risk you took as a teenager? So there must be a tiny little thing.
I mean, coming to America was a risk, right? I don't mean to answer two different questions with the same response, but
it's pretty risky. I'll give it to you.
It totally was. It felt very risky.
Look at me judging your like this massive move to America. I'm like, it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a pretty big one.
No, it's huge.
That's a big one.
Recount it. Yeah. No, that's huge. Recounting it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you're welcome.
you.
Yes, I bestowed this upon you.
But even that didn't feel like a choice to me. Just felt like this is what I am doing. Like I said, I didn't really feel like I made any decisions. Even coming to America just felt like this is the track I'm on. And I'm not saying that my parents it was the as Emily says always, the call is coming from inside the house, referencing Scream. Like
Oh, yes. Oh,
she's
yes,
always
I'm
like
aware. Yes, I get the reference.
these expectations are not coming from other people.
Mm,
They're coming from
mm,
within myself.
mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Last one in this round. 1, 2, or 3?
let's go 2. I've
2.
now picked out. Yeah,
It's just new cards every time. So, it's just
yeah,
however the spirit moves you.
yeah.
Oh, I feel like we talked about this.
Let's pick a different card.
Yeah. So this card is, what was a moment in your life when you could have chosen a different path? And that was so clearly your sliding
Yeah,
glass.
let's go with the 1 then.
Okay. Um, how do you consciously try to emulate your parents?
Well, my dad's work ethic for sure is something that's a big part of. It's something I really value. He's been, he was a doctor, but he worked in like a poor part of town. He had a clinic, but he would work
Yeah.
long hours and he would stay there until he'd seen everybody who was in line. So some days he was home at 8 and some days he was home at 10 p.m. So he was just there. And before I came on my own, my dad actually, it was kind of heartbreaking, studied to pass like medical exams in the US. When I was, I think, about 15 or so, the plan was to all of us move to America. And then something happened where he didn't get his visa in time and the medical he was going to do his residency here and the hospital rescinded their job offer because he didn't make the orientation. So there was a period where we were like packed up and ready to go in 2 days, and then suddenly they called and said you missed the orientation because he couldn't get his visa in time. But watching him study for that was it was inspiring because he would work all day. So he'd leave the house at 9 a.m. He'd come home at 10 p.m. He'd study after that. He'd study all weekend and then he'd go to work. And he was just really, truly burning the candle on both ends. And I remember watching him and being like, I've never seen anybody work this hard. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something I intentionally must have internalized because that's how I was. I was study all the time. And even now, the biggest, I think, asset I have is working really hard. Like, I prepare a lot. When I'm writing, and it's something I've taken from Emily as well, because I used to think of writing as this sort of thing where like you have to wait for God to speak to you. And she's like, no, you got to go to church every day. And sometimes God shows up and sometimes God doesn't show up.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Like, and she has a real ritual. She lights a candle every day. She sits down and she will write from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day. And I've learned, I've picked that up from her too and from my dad. So I think working hard, I know it's not the most interesting answer, but that's
true.
the thing.
Yeah.
And I think from my mom, I've just there's like a really appealing softness to her where she's like just a very, very compassionate person. And my dad is compassionate too. I don't mean to say that these qualities are mutually exclusive, but I think I've learned that from her is just to be soft with the people around me. Sometimes I'm not soft to myself, but I think, and I also think I don't want to get too much into specifics because it's not my story to tell, but my mom has had to have a thick skin over the years. And just seeing how she's been able to weather that has also been very useful while retaining your softness. I think that's a tricky thing to be able to navigate, staying soft while not letting certain things get to you that normally would lead you to harden. Yeah. So I think those are the things I've picked up from my parents.
Let's push back from the game for a minute because I want to talk about your new special. Congratulations, by the way. It's a big deal, right? You haven't done a comedy special in a minute.
2013 was my last one, and I just found out today Vulture named it the best comedy special of the year.
That's amazing. exciting.
Yeah, it's been exciting. I just found out like a couple of hours ago. And it's something I didn't do for a while, and it's something I'm very, very proud of. It's not something I knew that I would do again. So to be able to do it again and be able to do it in a way that I can feel like proud of, like at this point in my life, this is the hour of things I want to say to the world.
Yeah.
It feels, I don't know, it's a nice feeling.
So you just said that you thought it was a thing you wouldn't get to do again because you decided you didn't want to do it because your acting career was taking off?
Yeah, it wasn't a decision that I made to not do stand-up, but I just started doing stuff that at the time was much more satisfying for me because it was more challenging. So with stand-up, I was getting to the point where, I mean, there's always new stuff to learn. I'm not saying that but I felt a level of comfort with
Yep,
stand-up.
I get it.
And I had it for
wanted to feel uncomfortable again.
Yeah, so after we did The Big Sick, it was sort of like two things happening at the same time. One, I was getting more opportunities to act, and I was finding that to be exciting. But then also, as time went by, I started to get more and more intimidated at the thought of going back to it. It started to really scare me. And when
that's
I
when
would
you're
think,
like, I gotta lean into that feeling.
That's what eventually happened. Yeah, because to me, I really hated the feeling of I used to be good at this, and now I'm very, very scared of it. Like I was like, I cannot imagine that at one point this felt like something that was easy for me, or that I at least thought was easy for me. So I hated that feeling. And it was just this thing in the back of my head that I was like, maybe someday I'll return to it, but maybe I won't, because I'd seen a lot of actors who had started off doing stand-up comedy and then never gone back to it. Now I'm talking about people who are legends and icons. I'm not comparing myself to them at all. But I'm saying, people who started stand-up who never went back to it, that list is pretty intimidating. It's, it's Eddie Murphy and Steve Martin and Robin Williams. None of these people ever went back to stand-up. And so I was like, and those people are my heroes.
Yeah.
Steve Martin is one of the reasons I do stand-up. I mean, if I had to name one person who has been my biggest inspiration, it's Robin Williams. And I was like, well, if they couldn't find time to go back to it, then how am I going to do it? And so it was this itch in the back of my head that I was like, maybe I'll scratch, maybe I won't. And really it was the acting and writing strike that now was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so this is my opportunity to see if this is something I could still enjoy doing, or if it's something that I think I could be good at. Because for me, those things do go hand in hand. Like, it's hard to enjoy something that you're like, I'm really bad at this. You want to at least see some twinkle, some spark,
Right.
some little ray of hope, right?
Right.
And so that's when I was like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up these many shows, and I'm going to do all of them. I'm going to do all these shows just locally in LA, 10, 15-minute sets, nothing big, like in friendly rooms, with people that are my friends.
Yeah.
But it would be unannounced. I would go and do all these shows.
Low stakes, low pressure, relatively.
Low external pressure, but as Emily says, calls coming from inside the house, very high internal pressure. Yeah, to be like, this better be good, because it's embarrassing. Now they're like, oh, this guy, I've seen him in movies and TV.
Right.
He's like not good at this. It's all smoke and mirrors. So there is that pressure that I put on myself. Yeah. But I did all those shows, and by the end of when I did the last one, over 2 weeks, I did like 7 shows. And at the 7th show, I felt something akin to how it used to feel doing stand-up when I was really doing it. And then the next 2 weeks were not as good, because as I was getting more comfortable on stage, weirdly, the audience was less responsive, and I was feeling less in the moment. And I realized... So I wanted to try and diagnose what was going on. And I think I realized the problem was I was snapping back into how I was on stage when I was really doing stand-up 10 years prior. I'm just not the same person anymore. I'm a different person now. And so my performance was feeling disingenuous to the audience and to myself. And
so what happened? You go back and you rework material, or how do you change that?
It was more performance, because at that point I still hadn't... The writing of it actually took even longer to figure out. I'd forgotten how to write stand-up. But the performance of it, I realized what I have to do is I have to go out on stage, really lean back, not be beholden to any kind of response from the audience. Be okay bombing. Just go out, really lean back and see what comes out. See how I am on stage. See what my persona is on stage. What feels authentic, Because when I came back to stand-up, that was my big goal, was like, I want to be truly authentic and truly vulnerable on stage. That is a worthy reason to go back to stand-up. Getting laughs on stage, writing funny jokes is not, for me, a worthy reason to go back to stand-up.
Interesting.
Taking time away from my wife and my family and my time that I value with them so much. I'm taking time away from that. So it's got to be worth
it to you. Yeah. Yeah, without external validation. Yeah.
Exactly. And so what it was external validation was actually what Emily wanted me to call this special. She wanted me to call it external validation. And I was like, it's a very funny title. Maybe next one. If I do another one, it'll be called external validation.
Well, it's very funny. I enjoyed myself very much watching it. And I hope, as your fan, I hope it's a muscle you continue to exercise over the years.
Yeah, I hope to go back to it. I actually tried it again a couple weeks ago, and it was fun a couple times. And then the third or fourth time, I was like, all right, I'm not quite feeling that excitement because there are other things that I'm going to get to do very soon that I'm really excited about. So cool. I don't think the next year I'll be able to do very much stand-up. But, now I know.
As soon as it gets frightening to you again, you'll be back.
Yes, exactly.
We're moving on to round 2. Insights about yourself, 1, 2, or 3?
Let's go with 2.
2. What's a lesson you keep learning again and again?
That is such a good question. There are so many things. There was just something recently where I was like, okay, I'm trying to remember what it was. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
I do find myself relearning the same lesson over and over and over.
Don't we all? I feel like it takes a few times for us to get it into our heads.
Yeah, and I guess, not to get too meta, but that there is always a lesson to be learned. For me, it's learning is by far the most important thing. Most times if I'm acting in something, I do not get to decide how good it's going to be. I do not get to choose how the audience is going to receive it. Right. I do not get to choose how much money it's going to make. I do not get to choose what the reviewers are going to think of it. What I do get to choose is whether or not I learned from it, So to me, that's been a thing that I have to remind myself over and over and over and over, is that a failure is not a failure. It truly is an opportunity to learn. And that is something that I'm very intentional about. One of my biggest regrets, and I try not to live in regret too much, but it is something that I did this show called Silicon Valley for 6 years. And for the first 4 of the years, I was too scared and feeling too intimidated by the project and by everyone around me to really learn from the people around me. I got to do that show with some really wonderful performers. Martin Starr, who's one of my really good friends now, he's like a brother to me, is such a phenomenal actor. I've been a fan of his from before we worked together. He actually started a candy company, and I'm one of his taste testers because I'm a big candy fan. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. I'm thinking about candy. He's got a new shipment coming in this week that I'm going to try. Anyway.
You weren't learning enough from those people who were around you on Silicon Valley.
Yeah. And so that's the thing that I have to constantly remind myself of, is learn from the people around you.
So what did you learn? You talk about it in your special. So you were in one of the Marvels movies, The Eternals, and you talked in the special about getting all this negative feedback. And that's hard for anybody to manage, but it really did affect you. So how did you learn from that? Not just not the movie itself, but all the negative stuff around it.
Yeah. It's still in process, but the big takeaway, one, I am I'm proud of that movie. I'm very proud of my performance in that movie. I don't have any regrets with the way I approach the work. That movie changed how I approach work. And I'm very grateful for it. And I'm very proud of my performance in it. And it's rare to say, but I actually wouldn't change anything about how I am in that movie. But the big takeaway from that is I have to separate my experience of something versus the result of something.
Yeah.
One of those I can control, one of those I cannot
Right.
control. So what I can control is learning from every job and honestly taking a joyful approach to every job. Now, not every job gets to be as joyful as playing a superhero who can shoot like lasers from his fingers. That's a very exciting thing.
It's very
But I
specific.
think yes, but there's a joy to be had from every job, even if I'm playing a very dark character in a very dark film. There is a joy to that. So what I can control is making sure that the experience is joyful for me and for the people around me.
Yeah.
The feeling of a bunch of people coming together to make one thing is inherently joyful and exciting.
Next question.
3.
3. Oh. How big of a role does fear play in your life?
Wow, what a good question. Big.
Big?
My relationship to fear has changed, or I'm trying to actively change it. Fear used to be something I would try and avoid, and now fear is something I court.
Oh, yeah. This goes back to what
If
we were
I,
talking about.
yeah, kind
Yeah.
of. Like if I read a script, it used to be if there was stuff I didn't know how to do in it, it would be hard for me to, am I choosing to not do this because I don't think it's the right thing or because I'm scared? And for many years in my life, I could not tell the difference. Like I would say no to things and in that moment, not know if I'm scared of it or if I genuinely don't want to do it.
Uh-huh.
So my relationship to fear was really trying to avoid fear. Now, if I read a script, to me, the most exciting thing is I actually don't know how to do this. And that is terrifying.
Uh-huh.
So I have to run towards it. I'd never done a play in my life, and I did this show, Oh Mary, on Broadway
Yeah,
this year.
I've heard of it. It was kind
It's
of a big deal.
It's really phenomenal. I mean, when they first called me, I remember I was at the airport and they were like, they want you to do this. Now, I've never done a play in my life, and now I'm doing the biggest hit on Broadway, right?
Yeah.
My first feeling was not excitement, it was fear. But that fear told me, this is something you need to do.
Yeah.
And so I said, let me think about it. I talked to Emily. She's like, you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. All I felt in the lead up to that show was fear. I felt nothing but fear. When I was on stage that first night, all I felt was fear. It did not go away, really, until my third time on stage doing that show. The first night, it was fear. And then when it was over, there was the elation because of the cessation of pain. Now I'm not feeling fear anymore because the show's done for now. It wasn't until the third show where I was like, oh, I think I can do this. I'm not doing it yet. It's my third performance. I'm not doing it yet. But now it's a problem to solve. And I understand what I need to do. So, and then the joy and excitement of figuring out how to do it supersedes any fear I felt going into it. So yes, fear is a big part of my life.
But I love how you've made it constructive, and approached it from a spirit of curiosity instead of letting it incapacitate you. That's a great tool.
I mean, I value more than anything I truly do is learning. I really, really genuinely do. It's really my North Star in my career and in my life. I just want to learn. And you can only learn stuff you don't already know.
Yeah.
And stuff you don't already know causes fear.
Yep.
And so I've learned to, it's really weirdly a thing that comes to me from working out really hard. In working out, I've gone from trying to avoid pain to trying to chase pain. Similarly in my work, from trying to avoid fear to trying to chase fear.
Okay, last one in this round. 1, 2, or 3?
3.
What's your shortcut to a good cry?
my relationship to my inner emotional life has really, really evolved in the last few years, as I mentioned earlier. It took me a while to understand that I am very, very sensitive and that that's okay. I won't even say it's good. It's just what I am, and trying to ignore that is something that has not been valuable or beneficial to me. It's hurt me. And so many, many things make me cry. I've almost cried talking about my parents in this interview. I could probably cry right now. I don't know. I just feel like I have so many feelings on the surface all the time. For a long time, it was thinking about my cat.
Mm.
Um, since I've done the special, my cat has passed away.
Bagel.
And so,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Bagel, yeah. Just yesterday, a picture of her, iPhone does those memories
Yeah.
things, which, man, the thoughtless
know.
algorithm
They
really
just,
just
like-
sometimes stabs you in the heart. And that happened yesterday, and it was a picture of Emily holding Bagel at the vet, and just seeing how uncomfortable and fearful Bagel was in that moment. It really, really broke my heart. And I sent it to Emily immediately, because that's the other thing I've learned over the years is like just completely transparent with Emily about the feelings I'm having, good
yeah.
or bad. And so I just sent it to her, and I was like, I know it's like you don't want to be reminded of your cat that recently died all the time, but I was like, I'm feeling this, and I just wanted to let you know I'm feeling this.
Mhm.
So I would say my cat is the thing that makes me cry. I also, a positive version of it, David Letterman on his show, he had a performance by a band called Future Islands. Have you seen this?
No.
You should look it up. David Letterman, Future Islands. This guy does this performance, and it's really remarkable, and it makes me cry because it's a guy who looks nothing like what we think a rock star looks like. And he's performing his heart out. And it's a very strange performance. It's a very, very weird performance. And Letterman introduces this band. He has no idea who this band is. He just goes, ladies and gentlemen, Future Islands. And this guy goes out and performs in a way that, people use the word cringe all the time now. This is like someone who is unaware of what that word means. He's completely himself, giving it his everything. It's a really, really beautiful performance. And then Letterman's reaction at the end and how moved he is by it makes me cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think there is something like a good cry? I mean, I've heard you talk about crying as something that you've tried to manage, perhaps. Have you come to understand it as being okay and good?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think crying is very good. As a man, I was ashamed of it. And I went years without crying. I really went years without crying. Most of my 20s and most of my 30s, I went without crying. And I think it's great. It just means that I have big feelings that I can't I can't push down, and to me that's ultimately a joyful thing. Like having big feelings that make me feel alive is
Yeah.
it's the goal. It's not something to avoid.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Last round. Beliefs. 1, 2, or 3.
One.
1. When do you think about your smallness in the universe?
What a good question. I try to think about it often because I think it's a beautiful feeling to feel insignificant, but it doesn't happen often. Sometimes I feel like my problems are very big, and I don't get the perspective of, that picture of like the little arrow pointing at Earth, and it's all these dots. Like you just see how small you are, how small everything is. I have a complicated relationship with what I feel when I think of that picture. On the one hand, it is a very good perspective to have, which is ultimately none of this matters. On the other hand, It does matter. Our lives do matter.
yeah.
Our country, our world does matter. Stuff that happens politically and socially does matter. Stuff that happens to my wife does matter. So I have a complicated relationship with it in that the smallness of things can sometimes the smallness of myself and my experience um is good perspective. However, it's not small to me, and so hence it has to be important to me. I really love watching like nature documentaries. I watch a lot of like underwater documentaries and also a
Mm.
lot of like documentaries about astronomy and stuff,
Mhm.
like planets and things like that. I find that stuff very exciting because it does make me feel very, very small.
Yeah.
And I find that to be a good feeling because sometimes it feels like my own experience of my life is too big, and trying to like put perspective on it is ultimately helpful, but it's not really, to be honest, too helpful because I do find my experience to be I find it to be important and w- worthy of consideration. So,
It is.
you
It's
know,
like
when
a
people
balance, right? Like so many things. But
it
if
is,
you're
it's
like
sort of
overwhelmed by your life, it helps to put it. I mean, that's the whole magic trick of perspective. But it doesn't
exactly.
diminish the problems, challenges, or joys that you experience through living.
That's exactly right. It's a balance. So I don't think of the bigness of the world too much, but I do like thinking about it when I think about it.
Okay, three more. One, two, or three.
One,
One. Is there anything in your life that has felt predestined?
I don't think I don't believe in any kind of structure to the universe or anything.
That's what I want to know.
I really don't think there's any kind of plan. I think it's all random chaos. But within that chaos, I feel the only thing that makes me think there may not be chaos is that Emily and I found each other because I cannot imagine like someone who's a better partner for me.
Yeah.
I don't say that in the way to say that obviously there are challenges and things we work through, and we work through things constantly. You know, things are always evolving, we're changing, we fight, all that stuff. We've had troubled times, we've had it all, you know. I don't mean to say that finding the perfect partner for me has meant, and now my life is easy. It's
Right.
not that. But my life is much more fulfilling and it's much deeper because of her. I wouldn't say predestined, but it makes me feel like I just feel very lucky. And
Yeah.
lucky is the right word for it
Yeah.
because it feels totally random that
Yeah.
I just happen to find the person that I think is truly the best person I've ever met.
How did you
Who
meet?
also,
Was it like the movie? Like
yes,
she
just
like
like the
woohooed
movie.
you in a comedy set? She
That
like
exactly.
really? Wow.
That is how we met. That is how we
That
met.
is
I mean,
random.
so random, right? Like randomly, hey, so that's two. There's a and a woohoo that both changed my life
That's
forever.
right.
Yeah.
Random guttural
Yeah.
sounds have changed
Random
the
guttural.
course of your life.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's so true. Yeah. And the two things I said that I've made decisions about, Emily and comedy, both were just random guttural sounds based.
Maybe she just had indigestion the whole time and you thought it was like a woohoo.
I'm very grateful for her indigestion. I'm very grateful for whatever Thai meal she ate right before that show.
I love it. Okay, last one. One, two, or three?
Three.
Three. What's an experience you wish you could give every person?
An experience that I've had?
Not
Or
necessarily.
okay.
It's your
I wish
fantasy.
everyone could eat my grandma's biryani because I think you'd be a better person if you ate her biryani.
It's
She's
that
gone
good?
now.
Oh.
It's that good. And she's gone now. But I will say my mom is carrying on the legacy. And you know, I always felt like my grandmother's biryani is the best in the world, and my mom's is 5% worse, but still like it's the second best thing I've ever eaten. Now, my mom's gaining. Maybe it's only 2% worse, and she's getting there. She's like,
Do you just
you know
say
what,
this in public interviews so your mom will be at home like, I gotta get to 1%. I need to feed him more.
She knows, I think feeding me is one of the great joys of her life. So I don't have to convince her. Whenever I'm visiting, she's like, what do you want to eat? And I'm like, I want to eat these 3 things and then surprise me. And she loves it. She's so good at it. So I wish everyone in the world could eat her biryani because, I think I truly believe this, right? We're in a time, not to bring it down, where there is fear of people who are different from you, and there is demonization of people who are different from you. And I just feel like if we could all get together and eat each other's food, I genuinely think some of that stuff would go away because I'm from a part of the world that is at the receiving end of a lot of negative representation and stereotypes and all that stuff. But if you ate our food, you would think, oh, any culture that comes up with this can't be all bad. So that's an experience I wish I could give everyone. Eat this and see, like, hey, we have more in common than we don't.
So, the last thing we do on every show is to take a trip in our memory time machine, okay? So, in the memory time machine, you revisit one moment from your past. It's not a moment you want to change anything about. It's just a moment you'd like to linger in a little longer. Which moment do you choose?
Wow. A moment. Okay, this is going to sound maybe arrogant, and it is, and it's me like name dropping like a big accomplishment in my life.
Do it.
That's what it's gonna sound like I'm bragging, but let me get through the bragging to get to maybe something that's not as braggy, but it's still pretty braggy. But it is a moment I think about a lot because of how much pride I feel. So when we got nominated for an Oscar for Writing The Big Sick, and we got to go to the Oscars. Now, I've been watching the Oscars since I was a little kid. I'm a kid I was always obsessed with movies. I used to have Oscars on VHS, and I'd watch them over and over and over and over. And so to be there in that room as a nominee, unbelievable. And I got to meet, Steven Spielberg and Guillermo del Toro and Willem Dafoe and all these people, who were like, see me as someone worthy of talking to. So it was like a very exciting time. I remember sitting next to Emily. We're both nominated. And I forget who it was, but someone said, all the female nominees, please stand up. And then we all applauded for them. And I just remember seeing Emily next to me and clapping for her and just feeling so much pride in her because she looked so happy, and I just was like so proud of her in that moment. Just feeling like nothing but pure joy for the person that I love most in the world. So I like to linger in that feeling. I like to think about that moment and being like, hey, Willem Dafoe is clapping for you right now.
That's a lovely thing. Thank you for sharing it.
Oh, thank you.
Kumail Nanjiani, his new stand-up special is called Night Thoughts. It is on Hulu. Thank you so much.
It's been lovely talking to you. Thank you so much for having me and making me cry like 3 times.
Hey, everyone. One of my favorite moments from that conversation was Kumail's answer to the question, how big of a role does fear play in your life? I would love to hear what your answer to that question is. Leave your response in the comments, and while you're there, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.